Overtime?
Yes.
Yeah, overtime. Okay, welcome everybody. This is the Carver Conservation Commission meeting, April 16th, 2025, meeting room number 1, Carver Town Hall. This meeting is being cablecast by Area 58 Community Access Media, Channel 15, and will be posted by Area 58 on YouTube as soon as possible. All right, we'll go right down to start with the agenda. We have 2 items to discuss in discussion of business, and then we'll go on to the open public hearings. One of the, if people have copies of the agenda, the 96 Purchase Street is going to be continued, so we're not going to be discussing that because we're not going to have a quorum for that. We're missing 2 of our members, and Carl here was not at the other meeting, so he can't vote on this, so we have to continue that one without having all these people here. So, but we do have a quorum with 3 of us, so we can do the other items on the agenda. Okay, so the first thing we're discussing is the forest cutting plan by A.D. Makepeace at Swan Holt Knoll lot off of Pond Street, and maybe Emil can sort of just give us a synopsis of what's going on there.
Sure. So I was reached out to by A.D. Makepeace with this forestry cutting plan, and essentially a forestry cutting plan is something that property owner will submit when they want to do some forestry work and harvest some timber on their property. So I see these from time to time. It's not super common for us to get them, but typically I get them from like this Miles Standish State Forest when they want to do some clearing along the roads and stuff, and they're going to harvest that timber. But this one was from A.D. Makepeace from the Swan Holt property where they have their dual-use solar project that we were out at recently. So I looked at the plan, which I'll pass around to you guys, and I noticed that there was a couple vernal pools on the site, as well as the river. South Meadow Brook runs right next to this little parcel. So initially I kind of had some concerns. I tried reaching out to the forester and I wasn't able to get in touch with him, so I reached out to John Mason from A.D. Makepeace, and I was able to get in touch with the state forester from DCR, Jim Rassman, who goes out and he's the one who actually approves these plans. The Conservation Commission receives them just so that they have an opportunity to comment on them. So I was able to go out on a site visit with Jim, who's the state forester, and I learned a lot on that site visit because I was able to see this area isn't going to be clear cut by any means. It's going to be essentially they're going to be cutting an access road into this. It's kind of a large stand of mainly white pine and some oak trees on top of a kind of a knoll that overlooks the cranberry bogs there. It's actually really beautiful part of the town. But I kind of was able to learn a lot by going out there and seeing how the forester marks the trees and stuff. So that's why I wanted to bring you guys out there, and Ann and Dave and I were out there earlier today to take a look at it. And essentially the forester has gone in and he's marked every tree that they're going to cut, and then they've marked the last tree closest to the resource area. So a large majority of the trees are going to be staying there, but they're going to be selectively taking out large pine trees and some oak trees in there. And the resource areas are being very well respected in this case. The Jim Rassman, the DCR forester who I was out there with, said this is actually a very conservative plan when it comes to harvesting. When it comes to like forestry and wetland areas, under agricultural exemptions, foresters are actually allowed to cut a certain amount of board feet in wetlands. Vernal pools are excluded from that. You're not allowed to cut within vernal pools. But there is forestry that is allowed within wetland areas. In this case, there's no forestry going on in the wetlands. They're actually keeping buffer strips between the 2 vernal pools at the maximum width, which is over 50 feet in this case. And I just wanted to, give you guys the opportunity to come out there and learn a little bit about it, since we don't see these too often. And, in my opinion, after visiting the property with Mr. Rassman, and also earlier today with John Mason, who's the 80 Makepeace property manager for that site, my concerns are completely, I don't have any concerns about the project anymore. But, just considering that there are some sensitive resource areas, including vernal pools and the river over there, I wanted to, be sure that, you guys had a chance to take a look at it and maybe learn something as well. So I was given these best management practices for Massachusetts forestry from Jim, and he asked me to give these guys to you so that maybe you guys can read that and understand a little bit more as well, in case this comes up again in the future. So that's really all I had for you guys. And Dave and Ann, you guys were out there today, so you can give me any thoughts that you had.
Yeah, it was pretty straightforward. I mean, they weren't going to cut very many trees, actually. It just seemed like selective.
This is primarily just to harvest the trees, there's not much.
Yeah, and I think to keep the forest healthy, I think is the idea,
Well, it's-
Yeah,
Part of the
so,
process, so.
I mean, I thought did it very thoughtfully. Even Miles Sanders State Forest has some trees come down. Keeps, in some ways, it's a way to keep the forest healthy.
Right.
So I don't actually know what the number is, but I was concerned about clear cutting, but it might be, 10% of the trees that are there. It's a
Yeah.
very low number. They
Very
seem to do it
responsible.
thoughtfully. They respected, there's 2 beautiful certified vernal pools there, and they're staying far away from those. So I learned, and I appreciated their work. I have no
Yeah.
issues with it.
Yeah, so on these plans, they don't really give you the number of trees, but they give you the number of board feet, which is, as someone who's, not super familiar with forestry, I look at these numbers and I'm like, well, how many trees is that? I don't really know. But I did learn a lot having gone out there. So, yeah, they're going to be harvesting, I think, 38,000 board feet of white pine, and then some small numbers of some other trees in there as well. But, yeah.
This is mostly just informational, really, for
Yep.
us, right?
Yeah, I mean, the commission, has the opportunity to comment on these things. Typically when, you're following those best management practices, you're kind of good to go with the DCR. But if there's anything, specific comments that we want to send to him before he makes his, a decision on this project, this would be our opportunity to do that.
Okay. All right. We don't have to vote on it or anything, so we're good.
Nope.
Okay, so the next thing to discuss is an old project, and again, I'll let Emil sort of give a synopsis of this too, but I'll just introduce it here. It's SE 126-366. It's a COC request from Slocum Gibbs Cranberry Company off of Tremont Street. So maybe, and I guess Mr. Garrity and Sarah Stern's here to discuss it a little bit, but do you want to talk about it quickly, just what we're doing here? Or
I would just say that, this is a project that goes back, I think originally in 2005, and then it was extended in 2008. The order of conditions, it was for the construction of a reservoir as well as some new bog acreage on the Slocum Gibbs property off of Tremont Street. This is the only part of the property that's actually on the, I guess would be the west side of Tremont Street. Everything else is east of Tremont Street and, between Wareham Street and Tremont Street.
And also, I just want to, as a lot of you know, that Slocum Gibbs has sold their land to, or is going to sell their land to Buzzards Bay Coalition, and we really appreciate that. And it's, I think it's something that it's something that comes along just once in a while, and we really appreciate it. And this is a small sliver of property on the other side of 58 that doesn't really connect with that, but it's still part of the whole big picture. And it's, I think it's real admirable that.
And it's a lot of property.
It's a lot of property
really
that
gonna be beneficial
Mr.
to
Garrity
Carver.
is, and I really want to thank your family too for letting us.
Thank you, David. when you own land and operate, we allowed the bogs to allow us to keep, we were blessed with having about 1,500 acres of land. And over the years, we'd been able to use the cranberries to be able to keep that land and maintain it. And we oftentimes looked at the land as important as the bogs, and we would set the bogs aside to be able to do something else. It wasn't just economic gain, but it was I was blessed as a child to grow up on a farm and value the property, and so the lands are primacy, always took primacy with us, regardless of it was cropping or not. And oftentimes we had made decisions that were detrimental to the economic gain over it. But we've owned the land for 106 years. This area that we had started, we would use as a resource area for sand for some of the bogs. So it dragged out as we used the sand for some of the bogs, and we were going to turn it into a 6-acre parcel of bog that would be self-sufficient with a reservoir at one end. And at one end of it bumped up against a resource area that was just going to be a excess water release. And so we filed for the order of conditions back at that time. We've had issues, and I came to the realization that we needed to do something different with the future of the company. We looked very long-term about doing something. We were unable to continue along and keep the company and the family and in the area, manage it the way that we did. Some of the choices we had were to develop, to go for the gold, and we opted not to. And we opted to look at having the land as a preserve. There'll be 900 acres between Carver and Wareham that will be down with the two contiguous parcels. Wareham has already moved forward. Judy Whiteside, from the chairman of the Board of Selectmen in the town of Wareham, has accepted they've made a generous contribution of Buzzards Bay. As Carver has developed over the end, you have essentially 3 families that are in South Carver. Mine, the Makepeace Company, and the Williams family, and all have had conservation minded. It's a beautiful end of town. And if everybody slows down a little bit as they go 90 miles an hour to get to Target or Walmart, it would be a better view along Wareham Street. But the Buzzards Bay people are going to take good care of the property and continue it and open it, I believe, probably in 26 to 27 to having to public venues. And with as minimal disruption that we've had on the property. And it has been a challenge in trying to grow cranberries on the property because of the river that ran through it, and we wound up having this. This was ideal cranberry growing land in the 1930s, 40s, and 50s. We went to war with the Campanelli family when they were building houses down the end of the street, and they would put up a slab and build a house that was very needed. And in the end, on my grandfather's deathbed in the 60s, he just looked at me thinking that someday I might be involved in this business, and he said, just don't. They were filling in Cranberry Bog. South Carver wouldn't be like it is if we weren't in the cranberry business down that way. We've saved the wetland areas, the resource areas that have been saved by cranberry people is immense in the area that's there. So part of that is the way that cranberry people look at what's going on for the land and how it's taken care of. We valued wetlands all of our lives, and what I'm asking for is a resolution, a passing on the order of conditions, and it won't be complete. Buzzards Bay will not be building more new bog on the and finishing this project that we picked away at for a long period of time. They will have cranberry bog, the bog in front of my screenhouse and the offices down Wareham Street, and down the Wareham end we spent about $2 million redoing and modern cranberry bog. It's state-of-the-art cranberry bog that is self-sufficient, can grow a great crop on it, but it's not the native wetland bog that we all grew up on in the 1950s. And a modern yield of modern bogs now need to be changed, renovated. These would not be easy to renovate the rest of the farm, so there'll be about 90 acres that will cease production, and it will be transitioned back into native wetland areas. And the Buzzards Bay and I had spoken about the wetland scientists that are going to be putting these back in. I don't think it's a sin that they're doing this. I think it's a good thing because we valued wetlands as much as the cranberry properties that we had. I'm the only kid in the 5th grade that would bring in wetland plants and animals for a science project, and everybody else said, yuck, it's, swampland, what are you doing? So it was growing up with wet to your knees or whatever, it was, that's just the way that it happened. I thank the town of Carver very much for putting, it's not an insubstantial amount of money that CPC put towards the property, and this is appreciated, and I think the rewards will be is that you're going to have a great spot. You'll be hunting, fishing, and hiking, and biking, and everything else down that end of town. And contrast that with what the development that's going on everywhere else. It'll be great to have a respite that you'll be able to enjoy going down that way. I'm proud. My grandfather would be pleased. He walked the property delivering eggs in the 1910s to 17 to earn money to go to school, and went to college, came back from Tuck Business School, and put together a consortium of a few people and bought the initial piece of property that he knew so well, being there, and we've owned it ever since, and we've been proud of it. So thank you. I appreciate the walk we did today, and that in getting around there, and hopefully Buzzards Bay will be a welcome neighbor down in that neck of the woods for you. So.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
It was truly our pleasure to get to walk with you and hear the stories, like it's part of Carver's history, so
Well,
it was a great walk.
Yeah, it really
It's
was.
a great property.
Yeah.
It's such a legacy.
Right.
thank you.
Oh, you're welcome. So basically, maybe Emil, maybe you can explain what we got to vote on this. right?
Sure. Yeah, no, I would echo what the commission said. Thank you so much,
Yeah.
Mr. Garrettson, for what you're doing for the community, and the conservation, wetlands conservation. It's really something that everyone in the town appreciates, and all of the ecosystem that that's going to support. That's also very, very greatly appreciated. So again, what we're reviewing here is a old order of conditions for the construction of this acreage of bog and the reservoir. Again, we were out there today. The project was started, but it was never completed. So what Sarah has requested on the order of conditions is, or certificate of compliance request, is to issue an invalid order of conditions. It essentially, like any other COC, it closes this project off, the deed of the project or the property, so that they can move forward with the sale. This is kind of a one of those situations where you have to look at the impact that was made. Is relatively minor in the scale of the property and the project that was proposed, and this project is going to be moving forward into new hands. So the best way to clear this up, to clean off the order of conditions from the deed, is to issue this as an invalid order of conditions. So that would be my recommendation to
Okay.
Okay.
So because it's a discussion, we don't really have to close the hearing, right? And we don't have to vote on that or not?
No, it's not a public hearing.
Yeah,
It's
so we can
just
just
a
vote directly on
COC request. So it'd be a vote to issue the certificate of compliance
Yeah.
with the invalid order of conditions.
Right.
Okay.
So motion to vote, I guess, right? On this?
I move to issue the invalid order of conditions for this.
Certificate of compliance. Yeah.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. There you go.
Thank you very much,
Thank you.
David.
Thank you.
Again,
Yeah.
thank you very,
Thank you
very
so
much for
much.
everything. I appreciate it.
Please.
Yeah. Okay. Now we're going to move on to the public hearings. And since we're skipping 96 Purchase Street, like...
Excuse me, Mr. Chair. Just
Oh, sorry. Oh,
before
sorry.
you skip over the first one,
Yeah.
I was here to represent that project as well, and so
Oh.
I just would like to take note of the continued hearing date. to
Oh,
pass
okay.
back to
Right,
my-
right. Sorry. Yeah.
So the next hearing, next date is
It's on May 7th.
May 7th?
So if you guys are willing to continue to the May 7th, we'd appreciate that due to our lack of the
Yes.
quorum.
Yes,
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Yeah,
sorry
thank you. Sorry about
We
that.
just-
Yeah, sorry about that.
See you in May.
Yeah.
This is the certificate of compliance. I'm not sure if this mic is on. Is this mic on?
I think so.
Blow into it.
Can you hear?
Okay.
Can-
Yeah,
It's on.
it's on. Okay, thank you. Yeah, I just wanted to make sure. Thank you.
All right, so now we're going to move on to Zero Mayflower, and I just want to say, if people want to comment on this, no matter how minor the question is, we need you to sign in, particularly tonight, because we don't have anybody taking notes, and those are going to be done virtually. They're going to watch the video, so you need to sign in if you're going to say anything, so we know who's talking and who isn't talking on these things. This is a continued hearing. I don't think I have to read the whole thing here. So, give me 1 minute here. Do you want to pull some of this up on the screens here, maybe?
Sure, I can do that.
We're going to try something different tonight. We're going to try to actually use some of these big TV screens we have in
We're
here.
going to be accessible to the
Town spent
public.
some money
If
on
they,
it.
I don't know if we can get them to work or not, but we'll see. It might make it easier for the audience to see what we're talking about and what's going on, maybe if we can get some of this stuff up there. Just give us a few seconds here.
Yeah, I don't know if in the meantime, Catherine, you would like to say anything about the project.
Yes, thank you.
For the record, my name is Catherine Harrelson. I'm with Community Land and Water Coalition, a Plymouth-based nonprofit organization. We're a grassroots organization some of whose members live, work, and recreate within the town of Carver, and our mission is to protect, preserve, and steward the land and water resources of southeastern Massachusetts, particularly the Plymouth-Carver sole source aquifer. And I'm going to start my statement tonight by saying that we did submit a letter to the Conservation Commission at approximately 11:30 today. This was not within the required 48 hours before a public hearing. I do have hard copies here, and I can hand them out to the commission if needed, if you would like a copy.
We got it, and
Did you get
I
it?
read it.
I didn't get it, no.
Okay.
Oh,
Thank
you-
I
you.
didn't check my email.
But he
today.
emailed it, but we
I
got
read
it, but
it.
if you want a copy of it.
Yeah, do you have a
yeah.
copy?
Yes, yes. Yeah. I have several copies here.
Thank you.
Just so the audience knows, the reason that Catherine is speaking right now is because they're the ones that have requested the RDA, not the landowner in this case.
Thank you. And I will be reading the major points from this letter into my comment here tonight so that it can be included in the record for the public hearing here tonight in Carver. So thank you very much for having me. My name is Catherine Harrelson. Like I said, I'm with Community Land and Water Coalition, and we are the entity that filed the request for determination of applicability for this project. The primary goal of a request for determination of applicability, or RDA, is to determine if a proposed project or activity falls within the jurisdiction of the Wetlands Protection Act. This includes assessing whether the work will occur in or affect areas such as wetlands, floodplains, riverfront areas, or other resource areas protected by the Act. By submitting an RDA, applicants such as ourselves can receive a formal determination on whether a more detailed notice of intent is required for this project. Under the Wetlands Protection Act, 310 CMR, Section 10.053A, Any person who desires a determination whether the Massachusetts General Law, Section 131, Section 40 applies and may submit to the Conservation Commission a request for determination of applicability. I'd like to go on by further stating that Section 2 of this standard says that any person who proposes to work within the buffer zone shall submit to the Conservation Commission either a notice of intent for such work or a request for determination of applicability. Thank you. So I'd like to go on by further stating, why are we requesting this RDA? This project will involve significant activity in the buffer zone. This project involves clearing of trees and the excavation of sand and gravel, both within the 100-foot buffer zone and the 65-foot no-touch zone bordering vegetated wetlands. We believe that this is an activity that is not exempt from the requirements of the Wetlands Protection Act and the Carver bylaw. One of the protected interests of the Act and the bylaw is drinking water. And one of the purposes of a notice of intent is to provide conditions on a project that protect the interests of the Act, including drinking water. I'm going to give a brief background on the history of this project and why we're here today and what brought us forth here to April 16, 2025, and why we're here for a continued public hearing. On July 25, 2024, the Law Office of Craig Medeiros submitted a notice of agricultural reservoir construction off Mayflower Road in Carver, Massachusetts, to the Carver Conservation Commission, stating that the proposed work was subject to an agricultural exemption pursuant to 310 CMR 10.04 and the local wetland bylaw, Chapter 9.2C, as well as land and agricultural use and land and production and land and supportive production. Likewise, the activity was also exempt under the Carver General Bylaw, Section 9.1.2, agricultural excavation. This July 24th, 2024 notice was subsequently included in the July 29th, 2024 earth removal permit application prepared by Beals and Thomas. On November 6, 2024, the Carver Conservation Commission determined that the site and the activity are not subject to jurisdiction under the Act or the bylaw. The Commission based its determination on the conclusion that the work is normal improvement of land in agricultural use under 310 CMR 10.04 and the bylaw. For reasons which I will describe, this determination was erroneous. On January 22, 2025, Community Land and Water Coalition submitted to the Commission a request for determination of applicability under the Wetlands Protection Act and the bylaw. Our January 22, 2025 request sought a positive determination that the Act and bylaw apply to the land owned by Fruit to Ore Real Estate at the above referenced location on Mayflower Road. The work consists of a commercial sand and gravel removal operation for the removal of 640,000 cubic yards for the alleged creation of an agricultural reservoir to serve fruit door cranberry bogs. The public hearing for the request for determination of applicability opened on March 5th, 2025. The hearing was continued until today for, among other reasons, as is my understanding, for the Conservation Commission to hear results of the Earth Removal Committee's review of a soil groundwater report prepared for this site. However, new information has been presented to the committee since its original decision on November 6, 2024. This new information includes the Farm Conservation Plan, outlining the implementation of best management practices for cranberry production, updated 2023, for Deacon's Cranberry Company, Mayflower Bog and Carver. The Soil Groundwater Conditions Narrative prepared for the site, dated March 10, 2025, and supplemental information provided by the applicant to the Carver Earth Removal Committee via email on April 1st, 2025. The applicant does not deny that there will be activity within the buffer zone to bordering vegetated wetlands. The activity within the buffer zone to bordering vegetated wetlands consists of clearing of mature, globally rare pine barrens forests, removal of stumps, excavation of an undetermined portion of the 640,000 cubic yards of sand and gravel, grading of topography. Under 310 CMR, Section 10.55, bordering vegetated wetlands are some of our most protected resources under the Wetlands Protection Act, if I may. Bordering vegetated wetlands are likely to be significant to public or private water supply, groundwater supply, flood control, storm damage prevention, prevention of pollution, and the protection of fisheries and wildlife habitat. The plants and soils of BVWs remove or detain sediments, nutrients that occur in runoff and floodwaters. Some nutrients and toxic substances are detained for years in plant and root systems or in the soils. Others are held by plants during the growing season and released as the plants decay. BVWs are areas where groundwater discharges to the surface and where, under some circumstances, surface water discharges to the groundwater. The profusion of vegetation in BVWs acts to slow down and reduce the passage of floodwaters during periods of peak flows by providing temporary floodwater storage. Wetland vegetation supports a wide variety of insects, reptiles, amphibians, small mammals, and birds, which are the source of food for important game fish. I'll conclude by this statement by saying that the buffer zone to bordering vegetated wetlands, including the 100-foot and 65-foot no-touch zone, are also protected under the Act. The activity proposed by the client requires a notice of intent because it is not exempt under the Wetlands Protection Act. I'd like to go on by reading excerpts from the letter submitted at 11:30 today, prepared by Scott Horsley, Water Resource Consultant. For background, for those who are not familiar with Mr. Horsley's work, he has over 40 years of professional experience in the field of water resources management and on a broad range of water contamination and restoration projects. He has been retained as a consultant to federal, state, and local government agencies, non-governmental organizations, and private industry throughout the United States, Central America, the Caribbean, the Pacific Islands, Bulgaria, and China. He has served as an instructor for a nationwide series of US EPA workshops on drinking water protection and watershed management. He has served on numerous advisory boards to the EPA, the Mass DEP, the Executive of Energy and Environmental Affairs, and the National Groundwater Association. He's received numerous national, EPA, local awards for his work in water resources management. He serves as an adjunct faculty at Harvard University Extension School and Tufts University. He's also served as an expert witness in state and federal courts as a hydrologist in matters relative to the Federal Clean Water Act, the Massachusetts Wetlands Protection Act and regulations, the Massachusetts Environmental Code, Massachusetts Surface Water Quality Regulations, Massachusetts Stormwater Standards, and the Massachusetts Groundwater Discharge Permit Regulations. His resume is attached as an attachment to this letter. The specific point that I'd like to read into the record from this letter is point number 1. The project does not qualify for an exemption from the Massachusetts Wetlands Regulations or the Carver Earth Removal Bylaw. The applicant proposes to circumvent permitting under the Wetlands Protection Regulations and the Carver Earth Removal Bylaw by claiming that the project purpose is, quote, normal improvement of land and agricultural use, as defined by 310 CMR 10.04. The applicant suggests that a new reservoir is needed to be constructed at a depth of 30 feet into the aquifer, but has not provided any water demand supply calculations to justify the need for the reservoir or its areal and depth dimensions. The current owner has 9 existing approved water supply sources from the Massachusetts Water Management Act. These 9 permits include 7 surface water and 2 groundwater sources. These sources are available to the grower to provide irrigation and frost protection. While there may be some benefits associated with reducing the use of Dunham Pond, there's no quantitative analysis or justification provided by the applicant showing that the required demand exceeds the capacity of the 8 other currently approved water sources, nor for the dimensions of the proposed reservoir. This letter includes a guidance document prepared by the Massachusetts Department of Environmental Protection and other state agencies and agriculture organization, which provides guidance on what a reasonable or normal agricultural activity may be. Excerpts are included in the letter. It suggests, among other things, that the sizing of the activity should, quote, fit the scale and scope of the operation. To his knowledge, there's been no hydrologic budget prepared or submitted to the Carver Conservation Commission to justify that this is a normal project relative to an agricultural exemption. At minimum, the hydrologic budget should evaluate the proposed project, its legitimate water demands, in conjunction with the 9 other existing and available sources permitted under the WMA. The Wetlands Protection Act asks the Carver Conservation Commission to exercise jurisdiction over a project where the area on which the proposed project is to be done is significant to public or private water supply, groundwater supply, flood control, and storm damage prevention, and the prevention of pollution. The work to be performed is located partially within a buffer zone to BVW. It should not be exempt from the filing of a notice of intent under the Wetlands Protection Act or the town's bylaw. He provides an excerpt from Chapter 2, Approaching the Exemption, and this is from a document prepared January 1996, Farming and Wetland Resource Areas, A Guide to Agriculture and the Massachusetts Wetlands Protection Act. The preamble states, approaching the exemption, last sentence. In certain situations, defining what is normal or what is land in agriculture or aquacultural use is determined by referring to certain parameters such as reasonable size or distance limitations. Normal. The work or activity must be considered normal. Fourth bullet point. To be normal, a practice must fit the scale and the scope of an operation. Thus, it is not normal to dig a 10,000 square foot livestock pond to provide for only 15 cattle. So, end quote. He goes on to state that the project threatens drinking water supplies. The project lies within the Plymouth-Carver sole source aquifer, designated by the U.S. EPA. This designation recognizes the dependence on the groundwater system as the only viable source of drinking water. It also documents the sensitivity of the groundwater system to contamination from overlying land use due to high permeability of the native soils. Thank you.
Thank you.
Just a few more points, if you don't mind. Thank you. Horsley's letter supports what we stated in our original RDA filing, that there's been no calculations provided by the client. There's no hydrologic study as to the need for this. There's been no numbers provided as to the current water withdrawals from Dunham Pond, the irrigation needs of bogs 20, 21, 22, and 23, and how much volume is going to be reduced by the preparation of this reservoir from Dunham Pond. In essence, the client has not proven that this is normal improvement of land and agricultural use in relation to their needs for the bogs that they propose to use from this source. So, I'm going to state further that the current Carver earth removal bylaw contains no exemption for agriculture as we read it. In a letter provided by the attorney for the client dated July 25th, 2024, on which the Carver Conservation Commission based its November 12th, 2024 decision, the attorney referenced the Carver Wetlands Protection Bylaw, Chapter 9.2C, Statement of Jurisdiction, which has an exemption under 310 CMR 10.04 as land and agricultural use. We would just like to point out that the current Carver Code, which is accessible on the Carver Conservation website, where you click on it, it goes right to the Carver Code, Chapter 28-1, Section C, Statement of Jurisdiction. This Statement of Jurisdiction contains no exemption for land and agricultural use. The statement reads, except as permitted by the Commission, as provided by this bylaw, no person shall remove, fill, dredge, alter, or build upon, or within 100 feet of any bank, wetland, marsh, swamp, bog, beach, or wet meadow, pond, or lake, and under any said waters. So as we read it, currently there is no exemption for land and agricultural use under the jurisdiction of the Carver Wetlands Protection Bylaw. Thank you. To sum up, I would like to say, we are not asking for the applicant not to go forward with this application. We are not asking the applicant not to reduce its reliance on water withdrawals from Dunham Pond. We are asking the Carver Conservation Commission to find that the activity proposed by the applicant is not normal improvement of land and agricultural use. We're asking the Carver Conservation Commission to find that the applicant has not proven that the activity is normal improvement of land and agricultural use, and therefore not exempt from the Wetlands Protection Act and not exempt from the Carver Wetlands Protection Bylaw. We're asking the Carver Conservation Commission to find that the applicant is required to file for a notice of intent to work within the buffer zone to bordering vegetated wetlands under the Massachusetts Protection Act and the Carver Wetlands Protection Bylaw. In conclusion, why a notice of intent would be beneficial for this project. The purpose of the Massachusetts Wetlands Protection Act sets forth a public review decision-making process by which activities which are affecting areas subject to protection are to be regulated in order to contribute to the following interests. protection of public and private water supply, protection of groundwater supply, storm damage prevention, prevention of pollution. The purpose of the Carver Wetlands Protection Bylaw is to protect wetlands, related water resources, and adjoining lands by controlling activities likely to have a significant or cumulative effect upon wetlands values, including but not limited to private and public water supply, groundwater and groundwater supply. The applicant, through its April 1st, 2025 letter and its statements to the Carver Earth Removal Committee on April 8th, 2025, has admitted that this project has the potential to impact groundwater supply and private water supply. One of the benefits of a positive determination would be that the applicant would have to show that the project can be sufficiently conditioned to protect the interests of the Act and meet the performance standards of work within the buffer zone to bordering vegetated wetlands outlined in 310 CMR Section 10.55. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, so, again, thank you very much. Ann, myself, and Emil went out there today again and took another look around. And it's on the screen right here, if anybody's interested. It's that sort of portion of land there that's with a number on it there.
It's highlighted
and-
in red.
Yeah.
Dave's colorblind.
I'm colorblind, so I'm sorry about
Highlighted
that. Anyway, we spent some time there, and then Carl and I spent some time out there last week because he couldn't make it today. Emil, I know, has done a lot of looking into this, and we've looked through some of the older files, and there's some precedent on this. So maybe Emil, maybe you could comment on some of this stuff.
Yeah, sure. This is the site again. It's between Mayflower Road and Dunham Pond up here, and the proposed project is to create an agricultural reservoir in this area. It's a 10-acre reservoir. So at the last meeting on this, we discussed that the real determination that we're making right now is based on the request, is to determine whether the commission has jurisdiction over this project. And I think, the crux of the issue is whether this, qualifies as an agricultural exemption. Because, if you look at a project like this, there's no question it's impacting buffer zone to BVW. In any other case, this would, you'd certainly have to file a notice of intent. However, in this case, we've looked at it in the past, and I think originally where I was generalizing this as land and agricultural use is looking at this large part of the reservoir on the right side where there was some removal for sand for the bogs. That is a activity that is considered normal agriculture to use sand on these bogs. But I think in the past we've kind of generalized this area as land and agricultural use, and having been out there again today, and we've all been out there, we're familiar with the site at this point. I think parts of this project do qualify as land and agricultural use, and parts of it do not qualify as land and agricultural use. Specifically, the part of the buffer zone on the south side of the proposed reservoir here, this is a forested upland that is within the buffer zone and is not land and agricultural use. As well as this part on the north side of the bog, which is within the 100-foot buffer zone and is also forested upland and does not qualify as land and agricultural use. So there is some nuance here to this project, looking, like you mentioned, about the precedent, and I think Meg and Catherine have made some great points. Meg mentioned at the last hearing a project off of Meadow Street, which was a very similar project. It was a 10-acre reservoir. It was only within buffer zone to a bordering vegetated wetland. And the commission did issue an order of conditions for that project. So I think the commission is well within its right to, issue a positive determination here and require a notice of intent for this project, considering, parts of this project are within the 100-foot buffer zone, and, they're, clearly not in use. So there's certain requirements for land and agricultural use, and I've, extensively read that document, Farming and Wetland Resource Areas, which is the DEP's guidance document on how you go about looking at these agricultural exemptions. It is, one of the more complex parts of the wetlands regulation. I think that's why, we kind of come up again and again on questions on this in Carver. But, the primary qualifications for agricultural exemptions are, is the work normal improvement or normal maintenance, which Catherine was just discussing, and is the activity exempt? So, it's not just because this is a cranberry property that this is an agricultural property, that, that doesn't necessarily qualify as something for exemption. It's whether the activity that's proposed, is, number one, is it normal agricultural practice for maintenance or improvement, and is it land that's presently primarily used as productive farmland, or if it's I think it's necessarily and related to the production of a crop or a livestock product for a profit specifically. So those are like the general requirements for an agricultural exemption. We see tons of those projects here in Carver, but I think this is a project that has kind of both issues are happening here. We do have land that is a sand pit part of this project, and that's this part. And that is land that I would consider to be necessarily, related to the production of the cranberries on the site. But there's also forested upland here, and those parts of the buffer zone are not land and agricultural use, in my understanding, based on my discussions with DP and reading the guidance documents and visiting the site multiple times. And I think so. I think my opinion has kind of changed on this property. I feel like the commission is well within its rights to require a notice of intent for this and issue a positive determination. I think having been out there, I think there is I have significant concern about this project, just based on the size of it. Catherine also mentioned that there hasn't really been that much information justifying the size and scope of this project, and I'd like to hear more through the notice of intent process for that as well. So that's kind of my current take on it as this stands. And yes, there is precedent for projects like this to be, conditioned by the commission to protect the wetlands. This is an activity that's in the buffer zone, but if it's an activity that's going to affect or impact the wetlands within the buffer zone, that's a project that we need to be careful about, protecting our wetlands. And this is a 10-acre, essentially it's a, whatever you want to call it, sand pit, sand mine, agricultural reservoir eventually. There's going to be significant erosion with a project like this. There's going to be a significant amount of machinery with a project like this running back and forth. Based on the site plans, they're proposing a staging area on this property for the excavation process, which is going to be done in stages. This is going to be one of the staging areas. It's very, very, very close to the wetlands. This is the large wetland bog that we're concerned with here. The other staging area is over here, also very close to the wetlands. Both of them seem to be, within buffer zone and could cause significant, erosion into the wetland. One of the requirements for agricultural exemptions is that you have to maintain, erosion controls and whatnot. But I have my concerns about this project. So that's where I'm coming from.
And there is some precedent. We have a project from 2010, I think, that is very similar to this. And like you said, there were orders and conditions determined for that. So I think,
Yes,
I-
think I brought that project.
yeah. And also, there's some other, we should let the landowner talk for a minute too here. I do have a couple questions, particularly in the staging areas there. You're going to be digging this up wet, and there's going to be a significant amount of wet, supersaturated material in those staging areas, and that could potentially have a secondary impact on some of the wetlands in here. So maybe you can talk about that a little bit and see what's going on with that.
Correct. Craig Medeiros. This is a point of clarification. There is a new owner at the property.
There is what?
A new owner at the property,
Right.
which is ADGA Realty. I am the attorney for ADGA Realty. Fruit Dealer is no longer the owner. Just as a point of clarification, in terms of my take on 310 CMR 10.04, in terms of whether a property qualifies for the exemption, it's not only a question of whether or not the property is in agricultural use, but the exemption also explicitly extends to land which is not in agricultural use, but is directly related to the production or raising of agricultural commodities. And that is our argument, that this water source and tailwater recovery pond is directly related to the agricultural use, which is the cranberry bogs all around it. So again, it's not necessarily a question of whether or not this property itself is an agricultural use, but the proposal pertains to land which is directly related to the production or raising of agricultural commodities, which is the cranberry bogs. If the question is whether or not these trees are being utilized in agriculture currently, that is incorrect. They're not. 310 CMR 10.04 expressly recognizes an exemption for the construction of tailwater recovery systems, as well as the construction of water management systems such as reservoirs, farm ponds, irrigation systems, or a water storage system. If you took the narrow view that the agricultural exemption only applies to land in agricultural use, then none of those things would be allowed unless you were converting actual cranberry bogs to a water source. Like I said, the exemption applies to land which is not in agricultural use, but is used to support the agricultural surrounding land, which in our case is cranberry bogs. And I think that's the point of distinction for our application, is we're not necessarily arguing that all these trees of this 10 acres is actively in agricultural use, but the proposal is to support the agricultural use all around it. It's obvious that we have 100 acres of cranberry bogs around this, it's surrounded by them. It'd be kind of tough to argue that this is not related to the production or operation of those cranberry bogs. So again, that is my take and my argument regarding the agricultural exemption. In terms of the wet mining, the staging area which you're concerned about, in theory, we're not even going to utilize that until the last phase of the project. The first two phases of the project are to the north of that area. So as we dig, we're going to utilize the staging area for, it will be the eventual irrigation pond itself, and keep moving towards Mayflower Road. The purpose of that staging area was for parking of trucks, not for storage of material. So in terms of wet mining, we can store the material at the other staging area. It was intended to have trucks and parking at that staging area to the right. So if the board's concerned about material and its effects on the adjoining wetlands, we can certainly agree not to store material itself in that area. But if the board does have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
I would just respond to what you initially said about, the exemption. I agree with you. It is improvement. It is an activity that qualifies for normal improvement of land in agricultural use. However, the land itself, based on, how I'm reading the regulations, and, this is from the Farming and Wetlands Resource Area document from the DEP. It says, to summarize, the exemption for normal maintenance or improvement of land in agricultural use must meet the following tests. 1, it is work or activity that is exempt, not the land itself. The activity must be considered normal, the activity must be considered maintenance, or the activity must be considered improvement, and the activity must occur on land in agricultural or aquacultural use. So that's not the case here with this project. This part of the property specifically, and I'm talking specifically about this part of the buffer zone and this part of the buffer zone, is not land that is, presently primarily used, and it's not land that is necessarily related to the production of agriculture. And that's, where I kind of, make a distinction between your interpretation. I think, these parts of the buffer zone, I'm not saying the whole part of the buffer zone is not land and agricultural use, but some of it, as you, agreed, are not currently used for agriculture. And that's where, I'm coming from, and I think
Sure.
that's
No,
why
I
you
generally
should
agree, but
require it.
310 CMR 10.04A specifically says agricultural use or occur on land that is not in agricultural use, but is directly related to the production or raising of agricultural commodities referenced in 310 CMR 10.04. So that part is not in that section that you just referenced, but it's expressly in the statute.
I agree with you, but this is not land that's related. This is like the forested upland part of this buffer zone. The sand pit, yes, that's necessarily related land. But land that's forested uplands that is not being used for the production of a commodity is not land that's necessarily related and does not qualify for agricultural exemption.
Well, I agree with it in its current state, but the problem is we're proposing a tailwater recovery system and an irrigation management system that is going to be
That's
utilized.
fine, but it has to be it's presently and primarily used. So it's presently and primarily its use is not agriculture.
But how would a irrigation pond ever be exempt if?
Well, it wouldn't be if it's not land and agricultural use, and it wouldn't be qualify for the agricultural exemptions.
So in theory, your interpretation is that the exemption only applies if you're converting actual cranberry bogs into a irrigation pond, which would be jurisdictional because it's
or a area where water is being pulled from already. Swamps that are adjacent to. Typically these are normal improvement is for a project that is disrupting actual BVW itself. We're not disrupting a buffer zone. Typically a normal improvement project that's qualifying for these agricultural exemptions is something that's actually impacting BVW, a project of the scale that's over 10,000 square feet of a, BVW area, whether it be a existing cranberry bog, which would be BVW, or a, wooded swamp that, is being used as a water source for the bogs, something like that.
Sure, I agree that would be
Those are
jurisdictional
cases
because
that happen.
it kicks in at that point. But again, because this is directly related to the cranberry bogs, and it does not hit the 10,000 square foot, we're not in any BVW themselves, it's just a buffer zone.
Yep.
I believe the exemption applies, but.
Yeah, I disagree. I think it's specifically forested uplands are not land and agricultural use, and that is a requirement for the exemption. So that's my take on it.
But the tailwater recovery pond, once constructed, is an agriculture, is.
If this hill is completely taken down and turned into an agricultural reservoir, yes, that would be land and agricultural use. But that's not the current present state of the project right now. The present state is we have a large forested upland. Part of it has been used as a sand pit. And that part of it, I totally agree with you, is land that is primarily and presently used as land that is necessarily related to the production of cranberries. I agree with you that part of the project would qualify for agricultural exemption. However, these parts here, we've been out there multiple times. It's not being used, as you said, for agriculture. So my interpretation, and based on speaking with Brandon Costa, he's the DEP representative of Carver. He reviews all of the Carver projects, and based on my reading through the agricultural exemption document, I don't believe those two areas qualify for agricultural exemption. And that's why I've kind of changed my position on this. At the last hearing, I kind of said, this whole area generalized is a sand source. but it's, these specific parts of it are not a sand source, and they are not, land that's necessarily related to the production of cranberries. It's forested upland in its current state. So that's my
So-
take on it.
So-
You're saying the DEP's opinion that is backing up what you're saying?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And also,
That was gonna be my question. Has anybody weighed in with DEP on this to
Yes.
get their slant
They
on
have.
it?
I've spoken to DEP. Again, they're not going to make a determination on this until the local commission has reviewed
Right.
it. However, you have to be really careful when you read through this part of the regulation. It is very complicated. Again, like I've been directed multiple times to this, farming and wetlands resource areas document, and it clearly says in this part, again, to summarize, the exemption for normal maintenance or improvement in land and agricultural use must meet the following tests, and one of those tests is the activity must occur on land in agricultural use. So that is the kind of the crux here. This is not land and agricultural use. This is part of the buffer zone that is not being used presently and primarily for agricultural use.
We all agree a portion of it is, but
Yes.
a substantial portion.
Yes, and I'm not saying that this project should not go ahead, but I'm saying that, this is the commission's opportunity to protect this wetland here. And, it's a very large project. We don't see, a whole bunch of 10-acre reservoirs where you're digging down 30 feet to get, water for bogs, like we don't see that many reservoirs of this size in Carver. And so I want to be very careful when we permit a project like this. I think it's going to have a large environmental impact, not just for wetlands, but that's what our focus is here. So we got to be considerate of that.
yeah, just sign in there.
I
Yeah,
already did.
yeah, thanks.
Emil Taya, ADGA. I'd like to refute the claim that it's not in agricultural use currently. If you zoom out just slightly, a little bit more, if you notice there is a bog road around the perimeter of that hill. So if you start from the north, work your way down to the south, there is a cart road as well going through the hill. That is a resource as a cranberry bog farmer, where we would be utilizing the sand to sand our bogs. As you can tell in the southeast side, we have already started, the prior owners, prior growers, and we are continuing, and the sole purpose of the hill is to utilize the space within the carted out area. If it was not a space or area that we were not going to use, we wouldn't have had the roads where they are, and we wouldn't have that demarcation made. If it was a natural perimeter, I would agree, but there is no natural perimeter. There is a cart road, and I don't know if you've went up the hill as well, you would notice that there are cart paths going through that whole hill.
Yeah,
Yes, so we've been to the site, and I would say that bog roads are absolutely land and agricultural use. They're land that's presently and primarily used in the, related to the production of cranberries. So the bog roads absolutely qualify, but forested uplands do not qualify as land and agricultural use in this case.
So I should add that we did walk the entire property, so I know what you're talking about. But just because there are what I would call trails, I hike Miles Sanders State Forest all the time. I've seen trails like that. It doesn't mean they're in agricultural use. A lot of those trees are quite old, actually. So it's not like this was, being worked on 5 years ago and that you're actively using it. I saw no evidence of that. So we did walk the whole area. We did read all the regulations, and we're just trying to do our due diligence here.
I agree with you, Ann. We've all been out there, and it'd be hard pressed to categorize the paths going through that property as bog roads. I mean, they're hardly passable at all unless you have a motorcycle.
Right.
So.
And my other concern is there's been some ambiguity, like you just clarified the vice chair's concern about the wet digging. But I didn't see that anywhere. When we went out there before, we were told that was a staging area, and that was a staging area. No one told us about any other staging area. initially when you came with the previous owners, you said you would not be drawing from Dunham Pond, which I know residents on Dunham Pond, they don't like the water being drawn. Sometimes it gets drawn very low. So when you said you wouldn't use it, that was, to me, a good thing, but you've changed that. So I think a lot of things are changing, and as a commission, like, our jobs are to protect wetlands and protect the water for the residents of Carver, and I think things have just changed. And no one's saying you can't go forward, we're just saying that you probably need to submit an NOI to move forward. And that way, as Catherine stated, we can have the normal regulatory process where we're making it public, we're addressing the right things. So that's my point of view, for what it's worth.
I agree, I do too. So, it doesn't mean you guys can't do it. We just want, yeah. So,
Okay.
we have people that want to talk here, so unless you guys have some other, do you guys want to say something else, or are we good? Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
No.
Hello.
Yeah, please sign this.
I know what to do.
Fine, we'll finally get to know your name.
You guys, you know.
I know her name,
I don't know her
Just
name.
just ask your predecessor.
What is your name?
Rebecca
Rebecca
Lipton.
Lipton.
Thank you.
I just
being
am here
facetious.
because I wanted to talk about Natural Heritage Program, Rare and Endangered, did studies out here in this particular area on the Plymouth red-bellied turtle. And they would take the hatchling turtles, bring them back to their Westboro location, and grow them out in the schools to try to increase the population of these rare and endangered turtles. Also, if anybody knows, I'm a bird lover and photographer, so I just wanted to give you these photographs of these are not, I didn't print them out on photo paper, but some of the birds that live in and around Dunham Pond who are part of the Migratory Bird Act to protect them. So there's a huge population of birds out there.
I'm sure there
And I
is.
just think we need to talk about the wildlife.
No, absolutely.
So, just for your information, I don't think red-bellied cooters are in Dunham's Pond.
They're,
They're across the street.
yeah, they're all over.
But I've talked to a lot of people there, so it hasn't, so far, they haven't found any.
So,
But there are
um,
many across the street,
I was
so.
on the site.
You guys want to sign in?
Oh, I did.
I will say that Dunham Pond is a recognized priority habitat for endangered species. As you can see on the TV, either one, the yellow hatched area is the area that is regulated by the Natural Heritage Endangered Species Program. It's very close to this site, but, this site is not, on natural heritage land. So if they were to submit the notice of intent, they don't have to submit that for review to Natural Heritage, although it obviously is a project that's very close to that.
Right.
But I would just
And
mention
there's a
that.
lot of birds nesting in that forest. And I actually was out there helping hatch, with the hatchling turtles. So, just to let you know. Okay?
Thank you.
You want your pictures back?
No, those are for you.
Oh, okay,
guys.
okay,
thank you.
okay,
I want you
thanks.
to take a look and
Oh,
do
okay,
some
okay.
research. and
No,
what
all
those
right,
are.
all right. Thank you. Any other comments that we have on this? And it's just on the RDA, it's not, there's a whole other litany of other issues that may be secondary to this that maybe we can discuss later on if, after the, in
Future hearing.
subsequent meetings. No other comments on anything? I just want to go through this RDA really quick. There's 4 boxes here checked that we sort of have to comply with. And whether or not the area or depicted on the plans is subject to the Wetlands Protection Act, and that's the state Wetlands Protection Act, 100 feet, and we've actually discussed that, I guess, already. And whether or not the boundaries, the resource areas depicted on the plans are accurately delineated, and I think we know that. And whether or not the activities depicted are referenced is subject to the Wetlands Protection Act and its regulations. And I think it's the land that's the issue here, and whether or not these activities depicted are subject to jurisdiction under municipal wetlands ordinances. And that's, of course, just so we know we're clear on this. And also, there is precedent of this. We looked at an older file from 2010, and it looks like the Conservation Commission at the time did say it was agricultural activity, and then it was superseded by the DEP after that. So I think the precedent would come back anyway, and we'd have to do an NOI anyway in the end. So I think that Emil is correct in his information that he's given us, so. Right. All right, is there any other discussion? All right, so I guess a motion to close the meeting.
Second.
Everyone in favor?
Yeah.
Or-
Aye.
Or not? Aye, okay. So, do I hear a motion to approve to issue a positive determination for their request for an RDA?
I'll make the motion for a positive determination.
I'll second.
Okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
All right, passes 3-0. All right, that's it. So then I guess you guys talk to Emil and we'll set up another meeting and do the whole NOI thing, so, right. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
I appreciate it.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you very much. I appreciate everybody's effort and trying to do everything right here.
Yeah, thanks for everyone's input into this.
Yeah. All right. This is a new public hearing coming up. Oh yeah, we're not done yet, but we'll sign it if you want.
We still have 2 more hearings. You don't want to stick around?
Late night, tomorrow's the last day before break.
You don't mind if I
Oh,
sign
you're
in
on
pen, right?
vacation, right?
Huh?
You're on vacation.
Yeah, tomorrow's the last day.
You guys need your thing signed?
I already got all my hours.
Okay.
It's the 16th?
Yeah. Sorry for barging in.
No, it's all right. We need a
okay.
break anyway.
You're tired athletes. Take-
You guys
see one
stayed for the
signature?
interesting one.
Yeah,
Did you
that's
see
the other
one
one's not
signature?
going to be that much interesting.
Did you see one signature?
Where did I sign it?
Just out of
Site supervisor.
Site supervisor, Dave, is that right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
How you doing?
Good, how are you?
I'm great.
How's your brother doing?
Pretty good.
Yeah. Is he staying out of trouble?
Thank you. All right,
Are
thank you guys.
On baseball, or what are you playing?
Yeah, baseball.
Baseball?
That's about to be discussed right now.
Yep,
See you guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
thanks.
So this is a new public hearing. We have 2 of them, both at 86 High Street, but 2 separate lots. So I'll have to read this. Notice is hereby given in accordance with Massachusetts Wetlands Protection Act, MGL, Chapter 131, Section 40, in the Carver Wetlands Protection Bylaw citation 9.2, that a public hearing will be held at 7 p.m. on Wednesday, April 16th, 2025, in meeting room number 1 at Carver Town Hall to hear a notice of intent submitted by Joe Memo, 316 Highland Avenue, LLC, to raise the existing dwelling and build
Thank you.
a new 2-family dwelling with septic system, well, associated grading within 100 feet, buffer zone to a border vegetated wetlands. This project is located at 86 High Street, lot number 1, Carver, Massachusetts, Assessor's Map 29, Lot 2. All interested parties are invited to attend. All right.
Good evening. Joe Webby, Webby Engineering. And with me is Sam Capola, who is also an applicant with Joe Memo. And these are 2 separate lots that we have at High Street, 86 High Street, and Brook Street's on this side. And there is a bordering vegetated wetland that I've outlined in blue. That was delineated by Brooke Monroe, and we also have our 65-foot in reddish and our 100 BVW 100 buffer zone. And what we are proposing to do is build 2 duplexes with associated septic systems, site grading, and wells within 100 feet of the BVW. I know these are two separate,
Yes.
but
Yeah,
I
we'll do
figured
it.
I
That's
would
what I
put them
was-
together
that's
for
what
We
I
you.
got two
was
separate
looking- I was
maps. We'll
looking
look
for
at
lot
the next,
two.
Yeah.
I have to do a whole reading on
Yeah.
that one too, so.
I did this so you could
Got-
kind of
gotcha.
see
Yeah,
how.
yeah,
they-
that's great.
How they're related, yes, very good, thank you.
And if you'd like to come and sit up here so you can actually see, that's totally fine.
So we went out there, Emil, myself, and Ann this morning, and took a look at the site. And there's a lot of ground disturbance there. There was a lot of material that I guess had been removed already from that site. I mean, it had been filled with a lot of stuff, I guess. This duplex, I mean, it looks like part of it's going to be in the 100-foot buffer. Generally, we don't really have an issue if it's just a portion of a house being within the 100-foot buffer. And this one would kind of fit into what we've been approving in the past.
Yeah.
We really like to see that the septic system is outside of the 100-foot buffer, which you have here. So, I mean, any other comments from Aaron and Emil and whatever?
No. Did you have a setback requirement in terms of making the decision where you put this?
Yes, we have, it's 50 feet off of the street line
Okay.
and 30 feet off of the sideline,
Okay,
yes.
yep.
And 65, obviously, from the BB.
Yeah,
Right.
that one I know.
And you're going to raise, yeah, it says right here, to be raised. So the existing dwelling's going to be totally
Oh, yeah, that's
gone.
all
Yeah.
gone.
It's gonna be a lot of work.
Surprised it hasn't fallen down.
Yeah.
We moved a lot of stuff.
Right. So, so I assume this whole site's going to be cleaned up totally when you're all done, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so. I don't know, any other?
No,
No,
I
I
mean,
mean, from our perspective.
This one's pretty straightforward.
Yeah,
This wasn't the
you're
one
doing
I
an
was concerned
improvement.
with.
Yeah, it's the second one that we have more.
You're making an improvement
Yeah.
to what's there. and
Right.
It's gonna be better for the wetlands based on what you're doing with lot one, I think.
And that small portion of the building that's in the 100-foot,
Yeah, I mean, really like to keep
yeah, it's not an issue.
like 75% of the house outside of that, so. Do you have any comments, Emil, or not?
I mean, other than the property obviously is an absolute mess and it's a nightmare, and I'm glad that someone is going to be taking over to, clean it up and clear it up and hopefully make it more usable and safe for people, whoever lives there in the future. I think that's a positive thing. Did you guys have to go to the planning board to get like approval for the subdivision? Has that been done?
Yeah, we got approved under the A&R process.
Okay.
But we still have to get a special permit for duplexes.
Okay, got it.
So they kind of recommended we come here first.
Right.
and-
Right.
and then-
A&R, what's
I know
A&R?
it's kind of backwards, but I'm
It's
not
all
sure
right.
if it's backwards or not.
What's A&R mean? It's what the A&R you mentioned?
Approval not required.
Oh, approval not
Yeah.
required, okay.
I mean, I would add that I appreciate that you're putting in duplexes because it's a little bit more affordable and we don't see that happen as much as maybe we'd like.
It makes better use of the land.
It does, so we appreciate that.
Yeah, and it looks like, you fitted everything in fairly well here. So on this one, I don't know, I don't really have any other comments.
No,
I don't either.
I think this was great.
So I guess, motion to,
Well, we gonna, anybody?
oh yeah, there's nobody else out there, so. Lee, do you want to say anything, or?
I didn't sign in yet.
Do you want to say something?
No, I just wanted to ask, the land, because there is trash buried in that property, so I was wondering if that was going to be taken care of properly, not just covered over with topsoil, but
We certainly can't, everything has to be, anything that's visible has to be removed,
okay.
yeah.
Are you saying
Nothing can be
there's
buried.
stuff buried?
Do you know what's buried? Like, are there hazardous
Oh, no,
materials
but
or?
the trash has been there for so
Oh,
long,
okay,
and
all right.
as you're excavating, you're finding buried trash.
It looks
so-
like they've,
I wouldn't be
I mean,
surprised.
there's trash in the river that runs behind
Yeah.
there too.
Yeah,
So,
we
like,
saw.
we walked all the way down in there, and it looked
Yeah.
like,
We
Just
could,
making
we could put
sure-
that in an order of conditions to get that clean.
Yeah, and I would recommend that. I
Yeah.
mean,
Yeah,
I
okay.
think anything that's, in the wetland or the buffer zone that's, can be removed, should be removed.
okay.
Without disturbing the wetlands.
That could be an order condition that we do on this one. Okay.
Certainly.
What about anything unseen at this point? Like she said, it could be, I mean, that property is in quite
It is.
There could be stuff that's
He
buried
lived there
there.
for 83 years, so
Right.
since
Yeah, I
64 or
mean,
whatever, so like,
Like as you go to excavate a foundation, obviously that's really the main part of the project, as well as septic. You know, you may come into some stuff. I assume you would be removing
Taking
that.
care of responsibility.
Has the septic been removed or not, or whatever was there?
I
Cesspool
doubt there
or
was
whatever
even a
there?
septic there.
No, this is just a cesspool in the backyard.
I saw some piles of dirt over to one side over there, and if you fit,
Just the initial stuff to try to clean things up.
that was just all that was, okay.
We saw like a makeshift foundation with a concrete floor. Was there a garage or something there at one point? Do you
Way in
know?
the back.
Way in the back.
Oh, I don't know, I didn't,
There's something
There
way,
was
maybe
a
that might have been
pole.
off the property, I don't even know.
I
but-
It might have
think
went into
that's
lot two.
it's on lot
Lot
2,
two.
but yeah, it's
Do you
kind of
know?
like, you know,
yeah, it's just a shed back. It
There was a
like,
shed. It
They
had a-
had a bunch of, you know, outbuildings or what have
They
you.
did.
Just sheds and like
Okay.
stuff around. And, like,
Okay.
hidden. But, and then also I wanted to ask, I don't know if this has anything to do with the water, but if the house is being torn down, I don't know if there's asbestos in the house or what have you, but I live across the street and I have no like natural barrier almost, so I'm wondering like if the house was to be knocked down and a bunch of asbestos blows across the street, like is there any protection or is there any plan for that? Like when you knock down a house, like are
Yeah,
you
that
gonna make
wouldn't,
sure
that
it's
wouldn't
not a
fall under
windy day?
that wouldn't fall under our
Okay,
jurisdiction.
yeah, I didn't think so. You
But
guys
the
are
state
about water.
does
The Board
cover
of
that
Health might.
as far as.
Yeah, I don't really know.
Your
Yeah,
concern
That's a,
is
that's a building
valid.
department question you'd
Yeah,
have
no,
to
I
ask.
didn't think you guys did, but that was.
It's a valid concern.
yeah,
I think there's
before
probably
any
asbestos in it.
old house can get demolished, it has to be inspected by the zoning officer and the building inspector.
Right.
And a specialist on
Yeah.
asbestos.
So if it was a problem to just be knocked down, they would piece it, they would take it up.
Well,
would have
if
to- they'd
if
have to
there
do
is,
the best-
Do it on a
abatement.
30-mile-an-hour wind day when the wind's coming from the north.
Right.
No, they'd have
What he's
to-
saying is if it's inspected and they find asbestos or any other kind of hazardous material, it would have to be abated, and that's
Okay.
done responsibly
Okay.
by.
Yeah.
I just wanted to
Licensed
make sure
professionals.
things were done responsibly and not just like.
Oh, no,
no,
They- they
everybody's,
don't-
yeah.
They don't let you do that anymore.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it has to go in a special
Yeah.
container,
No,
a
that's
special,
great.
yeah,
No, that's
this, yeah.
great.
In waste
Yeah.
recycling places, they won't take anything that has asbestos in it
Yeah,
either, so
yeah,
they would be able to get rid of it if they tried.
yeah, no, that's what, that was, yeah, so that's what my concern was just, it seems like a lot of people just, you know.
Yeah, that's a
No,
valid
it's
concern.
valid.
Yeah, it
It's
is,
valid,
yeah,
you're across the
definitely.
street.
Sure.
Hopefully this will be an
Yeah.
improvement for you when
Yeah,
it's
just
done.
because I have crops on that side of the road and that would be detrimental.
Absolutely.
Sure,
Yeah.
absolutely. No, I think
Yeah.
you should be
Thanks.
happy that this is happening
Yeah,
because
no, yeah,
it's,
definitely,
there's definitely gonna be an improvement for
Yeah.
you.
yeah.
It's gonna, your value of your property is gonna go way up.
Oh, yeah, no, without a doubt, but I just wanted to make sure it was done like responsibly
It will
and
be,
not
I,
just
I have no doubt about that
covered
at all.
up, you
No,
know,
it
or
won't
what
be.
have you, or, like I said, the house knocked down on a windy day and all the trash flows over to my, you know,
Right.
because I pick up trash out there all the time, it's all like on my side of the street,
Yep.
you know, blowing from across the street or what have you.
Yeah, there is a
That's-
lot of trash over there.
That's
There is
more of
no
a building
surprise.
department zoning
Yeah, no, I
issue,
figured, I
not
just
us, so.
wanted
It's a
to-
valid concern.
Yeah.
So, and it looks like you're putting the well back, way in the back there. We saw the old well, which is well pit. It's like, it looks like a driven well or something like that. It's not even, probably a very shallow well. But it doesn't look like you're doing much fill either on this particular one. It's just, is there gonna be a walkout basement
Yeah,
kind of there?
both of those will be walkout. yes.
Right, because it looks like, because it's pretty steep drop off on, we noticed that there, so,
Oh, yeah, we did.
I mean, so, but that makes sense, because there's no, it looks on the drawings here, they're only putting in fill on two sides of it right there, so. Any other comments from anybody? You good? All right, so I guess we can close this hearing, right?
I'll make a motion to close the hearing.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right, so then,
The only thing I would say is I don't think we got a DP number, file number for this project yet.
So we can't do anything with it then.
Yeah, we can't actually issue an order of conditions.
oh, so we
I-
can't
Can't
really,
even- we
I
can't
don't
even
think-
order- we
we
yeah.
can't even close the meeting, we have to
Yeah, I think
continue.
it has to stay open for
Okay.
All right,
a
then
year.
never mind.
Scratch
I
that.
rescind my motion.
I
Okay.
rescind my second.
I
Yeah,
rescind my
for
vote.
both of these
Sorry.
projects,
There's
we
gonna be a
have
second
not
one, so.
received a DP
All
file.
right, so that's
for
gonna be, this
either
is
of
gonna be
these,
continued
yeah.
until we get the
Yeah.
DEP number.
And I think that's because the DP guy for Carver.
So
is on
preliminarily, though, we're okay with this? It's just we could have some order of conditions?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
when-
we're-
once you
we're
once you
fine
get your
with this.
DEP number, come
Right,
back.
right.
So would you guys like to continue to May 7th? That's our next meeting.
We gotta have a DP number first, though, right? I mean.
Yeah,
Well, I'll be here May 7th on another one.
okay.
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 So
Well, lucky you.
we'll call it May 7th then,
So
which
the meeting is
is,
still open.
going to be,
The hearing's
yeah.
still-
So we're
Hearings
continuing
that
this
we're
meeting till May
continuing.
7th.
Yep, sorry, I should have mentioned that at the
That's okay.
beginning.
No, we should have, I should have noticed that when we
Very good.
didn't see a number.
Very good for picking up on that. Thank you. All right, so that one's going to be continued to, we say May 7th?
May 7th, yeah.
May 7th, shaping up to be a busy night.
All right.
Yeah.
So we have another set of plans for this lot 2?
Yeah.
While he's doing that, I'll read this. This is 86 High Street, lot number 2. Notice is hereby given in accordance with Massachusetts Wetlands Protection Act, MGL, Chapter 131, Section 40, and the Carver Wetlands Protection Bylaw, citation 9.2, that a public hearing will be held at 7 p.m. on Wednesday, April 16th, 2025, in meeting room number 1 at the Carver Town Hall to hear notice of intent submitted by Joe Memo, 316 Highland Avenue, LLC, to build a new two-family dwelling with septic system, well, and associated grading within 100 feet buffer zone to the bordering vegetated wetlands. This project is located at 86 High Street, Lot 2, Carver, Massachusetts, Assessors Map 29, Lot 2. All interested parties are invited to attend.
Just for a point of order, I think, did we make a motion to continue it?
Oh, we have to make a motion?
We should make a motion to continue the first one.
I make a motion to continue the meeting for
Lot 1,
86 High Street, Lot 1, to May 7th.
I second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay,
Thank you.
sorry about that. Thank you. Thank you.
The floor is yours.
Joe Webby with Sam Capola. This is Lot 2. This one here, we're squeezing a little bit, so we had to shrink the size of the duplex, but we would still like to have a duplex in this area that's beyond your 65 feet. And then we have our septic system that will be greater than 100 feet from the wetlands.
Okay, so we walked around this one too. Unfortunately, we don't really like to issue. We've been trying to keep new housing out of the 100-foot buffer zone, at least most of it. We would like to see if we could move it somehow, but you don't have a lot of wiggle room in here.
Yeah.
But anyway, I don't know. What do you?
I think our standard precedent is that even though I don't like it, we've allowed up to 50%.
Up to, but it's, yeah.
Yeah.
And
This
I'm
is
not even,
more.
I'm not even totally comfortable with that, but I understand the
Yeah.
restrictions
I
that we're
agree.
dealing with these days.
Yeah,
This one is close to
it's
80 to
80%.
85%
Right.
within the 100-foot buffer.
Right.
zone.
So
And it's almost on the 65 foot. It's
And
very,
it-
yeah. So
it's really threading the needle. And
so I don't know.
I don't know what you can do.
So we're not engineers, so we were trying to think if you can rework the plan to get more of it out and also not include the septic within their easement.
Or I don't know if there's an option, but, obviously the existing house is a lot closer than the setback,
50 feet.
the 50-foot setback. If you were to, maybe go to the zoning board of appeals and try and get something
Some
that would
kind of
be
variance.
closer
some
to the
relief
road.
from those guys.
Yeah. which-
That might be an option. I know the septic, you got to keep the septic away from the well, you got to keep the septic away from the house, you got to keep the septic away from the other well on the property, so that it is kind of limiting with what you have here with the buffer zone, but I
Or
don't know.
maybe a shared septic, I don't. some-
Well, but even then, he still needs. At this point, he still needs his 50-foot setback.
Right.
Yeah, I don't think there's any way we're gonna meet 50%, because right now we have, the proposed dwelling itself is almost 53 feet off the street
Right.
line.
But is there any way to get relief from maybe zoning or something?
Well, that I don't know.
Right. About yeah. And,
Maybe with some type of recommendation from the commission, maybe.
yeah, well, that's what we would recommend.
That's what- yeah.
Yeah.
But,
At least try to get 50% of that house out of there. You know what I mean? If we could.
30.
Well, we'd prefer it to be
Well,
So we've never.
as much as possible. Yeah.
to be straight up honest with you, if it's over
We've never-
50%, it's
we've
not
never
gonna
done.
make it past us.
Yeah.
That's just the precedent we've set, and we've already turned down other lots that don't meet that requirement, so.
Would it might be beneficial if we if we take a look at this and maybe just put a single-family dwelling instead of a duplex. That would easily decrease the width, but I think the length is probably still going to be, I mean, we may be able to get somewhat there.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not sure how this works for the design, but, you know, if you were to shift the parking lot over further on the lot and then push the, you know, septic tanks into that area, because those can be within the, you know, 50-foot setback as I understand it. But again, you're only, you know, 52 feet, so you don't have much room to scooch that forward. So it would seem like you're going to need some kind of relief from zoning in order to, you know, to build in accordance with, you know, how the commission typically permits.
And maybe you could go to zoning, since we have to continue this one anyways, because you don't have a DEP permit. I mean, and just maybe talk to them, see, and you get some sort of idea what they're willing to do.
I agree
Yeah.
that this is not, even for a single-family house, this is gonna be tough to
I mean,
Yeah, but it still beats you 65.
Yeah, it does.
the 65 is a no-touch, but we're trying to keep most of the houses out of the 100 foot if we can help it. I mean, of course, you have the right to appeal, you know. So, I mean, you can put the well. We don't have any problem with the well going in.
Yeah, we don't mind the well going in the
down there, but
I don't think that
that's
helps you.
beside the point. I mean, I don't think it makes any
I don't
difference.
think moving the well helps you.
I would just like you to see maybe get some relief from zoning if you possibly could. That's our only option, because you really don't have a lot of wiggle room here on this thing. So,
Well, why don't we're going to continue this anyway.
right, we're going to
Correct.
continue this anyway.
So
Yep.
we would like to ask for a continuance till we can take a look at this.
That'd be great.
Yeah,
That'd be great.
absolutely. And
I
like said,
appreciate
give you
it.
a chance to go to zoning and see.
And see what they'll do.
Kind of relief.
Let us know.
I mean, they've done it before, so,
Okay.
you know, so. And because the existing structure was close to the road already, maybe they'll give you some, you know, well, even that's not on that lot, but I mean, it doesn't, you know, maybe there's some.
I mean, you are really cleaning up a very,
Right, the intent is.
We get it, we know it's not a pristine site, I know, but we're just trying to
Happy
stick
that
with
you're
it.
We want
When
to,
you're looking for well, not, I mean.
Everything
the
about
product
it.
you deliver is not, but, you know, affordable,
right.
units,
We're totally on your side, but we can't just grant, we've never
Understood.
Yeah.
taken over 50%.
and you got to understand, what our concern, as far as our commission, is we're concerned with the wetlands and the resource areas that, you know,
Right.
not so much the
Well, I
housing
just have,
problem.
like, you know, we're within the, you know, but we'll work it out.
Yeah, see what you can do, and we'll see what we
Come
can work
back.
with it, if you possibly can, I appreciate that.
Try to get that out, so I'm understanding correctly.
Just try to get it closer to the road,
We
basically.
wanna try to get this thing up
Clo-
closer to the
If you can-
road,
if you can
not
get- you get your-
exceeding more than 50%.
If you
Right,
get your
right.
footprint of the house 50% out of that 100-foot buffer zone.
I think we'd be good.
We're
We'd be
pretty,
fine with that.
we're pretty, we're
Yeah.
pretty sympathetic.
Setbacks.
We want to work with you, we want you to get the
And maybe
project
you
done.
could slide the septic over to the right over there, you know, over, the well's there, but you can move the well in the back, we don't care if the well's in this.
Yeah, we don't care if the well's.
The
in
65-foot
65, you know.
buffer, you could put that back there. So,
Just a septic in the house, I guess,
right.
we're very concerned about that.
We've been trying to.
And try to be
the
consistent.
Development in Carver is getting really tight, you know, as we
And
know.
we're going to see a lot more
And we're
projects
trying
like this.
we're trying to limit that a
They
little
don't
bit.
make any more land.
They
Yeah,
don't.
well, and there's a lot, I mean, 60% of Carver is wetlands, you know, and it's huge, so. All right, so we have the,
I'll make a motion to.
Do-
Are there any
Continue.
public comments on this
Oh,
one?
yeah.
oh yeah, any more, oh, sorry, yeah. Thank you.
Public comments on this?
No?
On this one, no.
Okay, all
Okay.
right, so I make a motion to continue 86 High Street Lot 2 to May 7th.
I second that motion.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, thank you guys, thank you very
Thank
much.
you.
Thank you for coming.
I was really impressed by you guys with whoever was here tonight, I was very impressed with you, standing your ground and not letting anybody.
We hit the jackpot with this guy.
Yeah, he's great.
Yeah, we want to
Thank
keep
you.
him.
No, that's great.
Um,
I've been wanting to come to one of these meetings, I just haven't had time. So this is nice.
glad you-
I'm really glad that you guys are on this board.
Thank you.
Well, thank you.
I
Appreciate
really,
that.
I was really impressed. Thank you.
I mean, our normal chairman's not here, so that's why I
There's
stumbled
five
through,
of
I
us,
stumbled
but-
through it a little bit.
Oh, there's usually 5.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Who was the other gentleman, or person's name?
Thank you.
Savory Moore is the
Okay.
chairperson.
Oh, okay.
He's the vice chair, and then
Okay.
Curtis Lake.
Take the seat of honor.
But the three of us is a quorum, so we
Yeah,
can
it's
vote.
really nice to see some people protecting,
We like seeing residents.
Well, we
come
try to
in,
do the right thing, you know, I
You
mean,
know.
we make mistakes sometimes.
Yeah. No, you're trying. You're trying
Yeah,
to do the
so-
right
Well,
thing.
thank you for coming.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Yeah.
thank you.
Have a good night.
Glad you came.
Oh, okay.
So, sorry, what's your name again?
Rebecca.
Rebecca.
Rebecca, okay.
Okay, hi. I wanted to talk about this Makepeace Road.
What's
before-
that?
Mayflower Road.
Yeah.
Mayflower Road?
No, Makepeace, the
Makepeace.
Swan Holt, otherwise known as Swanoke. 8,000 years of Native American history there. Okay?
Absolutely beautiful place.
Okay, was. No
No,
longer
it still is. I was there today.
Okay, there's a little bit of beauty still left there, but go back 35 years when you would not recognize it today, okay? So I just wanted to let you know, I used to work for the Mass Archaeological Society, and in one of their bulletins was some information about a 1958 dig that was done there by William Fowler and a bunch of other guys. And there were discovered cremation burials up there. They have dug most of them out, okay? So I just want you to be careful when you're going in there with a road, because digging up cremation burials.
Yeah,
is
those are
not-
some serious allegations that are not to do with our jurisdiction. So
understand
you
that,
should,
but when
if you're an archaeological person, you should reach out to the proper people in the
Well,
state archaeological office
They should
and
have
try and address it
request-
that way.
This is what we're all doing, requesting digs, okay? If you look, go on Google Maps and look at what has happened since then, okay? Since 1952, okay? It's been documented. I'm not saying this, it's been documented.
It's not that we don't believe you. It's just
Right.
not, it's not under
I
our
will send,
jurisdiction.
I'm going to send you the paperwork.
I would be fascinated to hear about that. Yeah,
I'd like to hear more about it. It's
Well,
interesting.
I'll send him the paperwork, and you can all look at what they found there.
Yeah,
okay?
that'd be very interesting.
What I am seeing here is that in all this is where eastern slopes were a big thing, on hills, where they buried their dead, okay? And
Who are they? I'm assuming Native Americans?
Wampanoag.
Yes,
Yeah.
the Wampanoag people. So, it doesn't matter what tribe, really. So, this is what's happening in our area now. And I would be really upset if they dug up my mother, my father, my grandparents, okay? That wouldn't happen. People would not be digging up Burial Hill in Plymouth, Mass, where all the
Well, they're not doing any digging there.
They're just taking down
They're just
trees.
taking a few trees.
Okay, but wait, okay, I have, one of my best friends worked for Makepeace for 44 years. He was a Vietnam vet. And he came and went to UMass Aggie and worked for Makepeace. And I went through those places with him, okay? So I know what all these places looked like before. I know the significance of Swanoke. That's the real word, it means Southland, okay? When the Pilgrims came here, they came up with their oxen to Swan Holt. And they actually got grains and grasses with their oxen and cart and went all the way back to Plymouth with them. The Native Americans fed the Pilgrims and kept them from starvation. So, honoring them is not going through there and desecrating their land, okay? That's dishonor to me. So anyway, I'm gonna send you the archaeological dig information. You can look through it. I just want you to be aware that that's up there. I know that property very well,
Thank you.
okay? And I want you to know that there's not very much left out there. And what is, there have been cremation burials found there. So if they're gonna use it as a road, I'm sure they're gonna cut the trees and then stump them and build a road, which means digging and then
I don't think they're gonna stump them, it's just kind of thin.
they're just
trees.
gonna drive over.
No, there's not very many trees. You
No
went-
kid- I know,
Yeah,
I was thinking.
No, it's not
where-
very many trees that they're
They're
gonna
not taking
cut.
that many down.
Yeah, there's just a
Oh,
few
okay.
trees, it's just.
Well, I'm still gonna send you the info.
Thank you, I would really
Please do.
appreciate
Like
it.
No,
we do
also,
anyway.
do you know, I mean, you would know, what's the state office that does the archaeological,
They do nothing.
well, I mean,
This is why this is all like this.
no, but I know like up in Kingston, they found an area, they were gonna make ball fields, and they found some archaeological
Okay, that
artifacts.
was a long time ago, and that was Peter Obuchinsky's spot. I
No,
know
no,
them
no,
all.
no, 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 but what office in the state would you'd have to contact to
Mass
get?
Historic.
Okay,
Mass Historic.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and she's rubber stamped. That's my opinion. I'm
Yeah.
entitled to have
but
it.
she's the one to contact, just to give her the information anyway. If you-
She knows all about it.
No,
Yeah,
okay.
sure.
Trust me.
Nobody, if you have something specific
Listen,
though about this one
Plimpton,
project.
right on the Carver line, right
Yeah.
down the street from SLT, is one of the oldest sites in Massachusetts. It's called Anasnapit. We're talking paleo, okay? So they found Clovis points there. They took all those artifacts out of here like 40 years ago, and now they're at PAL in a box somewhere in the basement in a repository. Do they belong there? In my opinion, no. They would belong back with the tribe. I wish the tribe had all the money in the world that they could build their own museum and let us all go and see who their heritage is, what happened around here. But no, that's where the new 44 went through, is where Anasnapit is. So you'll see it if you, it's chain linked off and they left big holes in the earth. So,
Didn't the bog owner just get fined pretty good?
What's that?
Didn't the bog owner just get fined pretty good for digging through there not that long ago?
which one?
The one you were just talking about, Plimpton, in that area. I thought I remember reading about that in the paper, but I could be wrong.
I don't know which site. Is it the one where the guy
I
tipped over his truck in the pit?
I do remember when,
I mean, there's no question that,
We had our share.
I remember when
I'm
44
pretty sure
was
this part is
halted.
on the
Do you
agenda.
remember? 44 was halted construction because of.
Because of the turtle?
Because of the turtle.
Yeah, yeah.
We should probably move on.
Yeah,
We should-
Okay, okay, so anyway.
we can discuss this after the
Right,
meeting,
right, I
but
just
we
wanted
should
to-
really finish
To let
this.
you know that it's important to me to speak up about Swan Holt. And I don't know what's left there, I'll be honest about that, but there was an archaeological dig in 1952, and I have the documents, and.
Yeah.
Love to see it.
Send it to us, thank you very much.
I'll send it to you, and you
Okay.
can share.
Thank you very much.
I'll send it to you.
To him, he'll get it.
He'll give it
I'll
to
send
us.
you, and you can share.
He'll give it to
Yeah,
us.
thank
Thank
you,
you so
Rebecca.
much.
Thank you.
Good night, Rebecca.
Thank you.
Have a good night.
Aye, thanks.
And just a shout out to the Wampanoag people.
Okay.
Their hearts are broken. Right now, their hearts are broken, so.
Thank you.
Yep.
All right, so, did you get a chance to read these?
I did read them.
I did, I read them,
You did read, I did too.
I did.
So any changes that I
I
noticed?
thought she did a wonderful job.
She
as
did do a
usual.
She
wonderful
does
job.
do
As
Make a
she
motion to
does,
approve
yeah.
the minutes of, what day, April 2nd, as written.
I second that.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Accepting? Aye. Okay. So now, do I hear a motion to close?
I got one question for Emil.
Oh, Neil.
Sure.
Oh.
Anticipated.
Yes.
Indian Street. I know we issued an order to have a guy move a shed. Has he made any effort to move that shed yet? 'Cause
Yeah,
last time
so
I drove by, it didn't look like it.
what I know is that he appealed our decision, but he submitted the appeal late to the DP, and he was, on the grounds of he missed his window, he was denied, his appeal. So it came back to me, and then he reached out again, and he was like, what are my options? And I told him you can either file an NOI to keep the shed where you have it, and you think what you're gonna, decision you're
Same
gonna
old
get,
thing, yeah.
or you can move the shed. And my understanding is that he's gonna move the shed. He's not gonna get a COC until he does move the shed. And to be honest with you, I've had so many other things
No,
on my plate
I'm not
that.
putting it on you. I'm
No,
just-
I know,
Because
but
these things tend to happen, and then they tend to sit, and then nobody
Yep.
asks about them, and they.
but I can certainly, go by there.
I like to keep
and-
these things
I
on the
went by
front
the other
burner.
day, it's just tarp, it's just kind of covered.
It hasn't changed. Everything's,
Yeah, yeah,
it's
yeah.
it's
Yes.
status quo.
Yeah.
I just,
Yeah, my hope is that he's, just, got other things that, are coming in the, priority, and then he'll be moving that, and then hopefully he'll come back to us for the COC. But yeah, I'd be happy to reach out and find out.
I don't think there's any need to reach out at this moment, but if we go another month or two with no action, maybe.
Yeah, once it
maybe we
gets,
look in-
For sure.
once it gets too long, sometimes people.
Yeah.
So is
They
our
think
May
we forgot
7th
about it.
looking really
Right.
long? 'Cause there's a lot of
Yeah, our
stuff
May
going on.
7th meeting is looking quite busy.
'Cause we still have some continued
We
from.
had other
the
stuff.
last-
Yeah, we
Yeah,
have
so
the
we still
ANRAD on there from Fuller Street, and then we have, a COC
Street.
request, and we've got,
We got those continued from,
Fuller Street.
continued public
Rochester Road.
hearings, then we have the continued hearing from, 96 Purchase Street, and then we have 2 new public hearings that have already
Well,
received.
by that time, maybe I'll be better at these, I've already done 2, maybe the
Kidding,
third will be a
But-
charm, third will be a charm.
You'll be gone.
No, not May 7th, I'll be here
Okay.
still.
Yeah, and I feel bad because I told that Rochester Road guy that it'd be quicker to go on the next
Well, you
meeting.
can tell
but-
him that he could wait longer if he wanted to.
Yeah,
we
but
may not have a solution to those problems.
yeah. It just seems like right now it's just been so busy. We have, right now we have over 12 applications that are in front
Springtime's
of
generally
in
like
front of the
that, though.
commission. So, yeah, we just gotta work through them and hopefully
Bring it over.
come out on the other side. But I will say, since we're here, I reached out to town council regarding our town Carver wetlands bylaw changes that we approved at town meeting, and I received a letter from her, or an email from her, Amy Quessel, who is one of the members of KP Law. And, my question essentially is, do those go into effect right away? And if so, do they affect these current hearings? And, her opinion is that, the bylaw improvements approved at April 8th, 2025 town meeting are not effective until they've been approved by Attorney General and published pursuant to General Law C-40, Section 32, and further, even upon the bylaw amendments going into effect, each project will be subject to the bylaws as they existed at the time that the notice of intent was filed. So, projects that are before us now
Are still
that were
under the old
before,
bylaws,
the bylaw changes, won't be affected by those. And then, once the Attorney General has, finished their review, town clerk will then, publish those, in the,
Sense for how long that takes?
I think last year's bylaw changes took till August.
yeah, it'll probably be a couple months. That'd be my guess.
At the end of summer, I bet.
Yeah. So it's just, just something to consider, because obviously we have these changes and they're important for the town, but we have to, I'd like to just make it clear in this public hearing that they're not going to go
They're not
into
in effect
effect
until it-
right away.
Until the process is complete.
And I did discuss with Emil about, whether or not it's Zero Mayflower because of ownership issues, but that doesn't really apply because it carries with the property no matter who owns it, so.
Yeah, and it wasn't the owner that's filing for the idea
Exactly,
anyway, so
exactly,
it's somebody, it was a
exactly.
separate entity.
So it doesn't really. Okay, so,
Now I make a motion to adjourn.
Second?
all those in favor?
Aye.
Adjourned, thank you very much.
Nice job, you guys, nice job.
Thank you, Area 58,
I
appreciate it.
think we need to reorganize the board.